Good evening, and welcome to the May 23rd, 2011 Goffstown Board of Selectmen's meeting. The board did already convene, and we had a couple of non-public items that we had to deal with, which we took care of. And 6 o'clock, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. So would everybody please rise? And Dave, would you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is acceptance corrections of public minutes for 5/16. We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Next item are announcements, and Sue, we have a few announcements. Do we have any others that we're not aware of?
No.
Do you mind doing the well, we have one from a resident, a business owner along Mass Road for the sewer project, that,
Starts at the bottom of page 1.
yeah, 'cause it's a string, so that's
Right.
why I'm, Dave, that's your,
May I address it?
sure, would you please?
Thank you. There was a public information session concerning the Mass Road Sewer Project held on April 13th. And among the members of the public attending to that was the owner of the Alternative Bike Shop. He made us aware to the fact that on Friday, 13 May, he was holding an annual event expecting 1,000 people. And due to that unusually large presence of a lot of people in that area of Mass Road, a solution the Sewer Commission was able to offer was to not have the trenching work going on during that one day, and the company could be busy on other activities other than trenching. And so the owner of the wrote a note back to the town, and I'll read it. I'm writing today to say thank you for helping my business through the construction. Friday's bike swap was a huge success. Our sale was up 30% from last year. Thank you again. Ryan Belanja, president of the Alternative Bike Shop.
Thank you, David. We also have a note from someone. It's to Karen LeClaire, which is our deputy town clerk. And I was in your office several days ago and asked you for help in retrieving my father's death certificate. You were very helpful in getting that information, and therefore I can continue my research. I send you this message just to say that you went out of your way to help someone you did not know, and I thank you very much for that. And it's Robert Fisk, Mariposa, California. One other thing is a traffic alert. That's the Mass Road Sewer Project, and Dave, do you want to address that one?
I know the board has a read-ahead material that makes reference to yesterday. The actual, I'm going to read, though, the sewer construction alert that was, is an update to that. And I'll make the change of the date. The, yes. The Goffstown Sewer Commission announces that tentatively starting May 29th, the contractor, Cardillo and Sons, who are working on the Mass Road Sewer Replacement Construction Project will be initiating night work Sunday through Thursdays, and beginning at 8:30 p.m., lasting till 5:30 in the morning. The purpose is to facilitate the closure of Mass Road and to enable the construction of building sewer services and new laterals, with connections onto side street sewers. The affected area is the section of Mass Road between Larch Street and Daniel Plummer Road. The residents on each street will be notified ahead of the closure of the intersection for the construction to facilitate the installation of those laterals. The side streets will be closed to traffic except for residents and emergency egress access. The residents and the building owners will be notified 24 to 48 hours in advance of the work directly affecting their house or the building. The access to the inside of the homes may be required to confirm existing sewer connections. The night work is expected to last 4 to 5 weeks once it begins, and your cooperation in this matter is greatly appreciated. There are detour maps on the town's website, www.gulftown.com.
Thank you, Dan. Do we have any, is that it, Sue?
That's all I have.
Next item is going to be public comment. Do we have any members of the public who would like to make a comment? Yes, and we're gonna need your name, yes, you can sit up here, and we're gonna need your name for the record. Sue. Oh, so you,
Two of us.
oh, okay.
My name is Susan Tucker,
And Jean Walker?
and we're here for the garden club, and we wanted to express our disappointment in the signage that has gone into the garden at New Boston Traffic Circle. The garden club has existed in this town for 75 years, more than 75 years. And Jean and I, with some help, have planted that garden for more than 30 years now.
Mhm.
And this is planting time, and we would like to have access to it, but there's signposts in the garden, and there's not visibility from half the way. I think there's 2 big signs there. So we just have come to express our disappointment in that
And-
process.
And in the past few years, I've worked real closely with Derek. He's been wonderful. When people have come in asking for signs, he hasn't allowed any signs to be put in where our gardens are. And he's made sure that that hasn't happened, and this year it's happened. I don't know if it's a miscommunication with people or what, but we are extremely disappointed. Because we do work very hard to make the town look nice.
Okay.
I have something not related, but another public comment.
Okay.
Just so happened. I think it was Saturday, coming down Wallace Road, there's a dead cat on the side of the road, right opposite the high school driveway. And obviously, it doesn't belong to the homeowners because it's still there. So I called the highway department to see if they would do anything, and they said, well, it's the police, supposedly the police department. I called the police department, and they said it's not in their budget, that they no longer remove dead animals from the side of the road. And it's still there, and I mean, that's a real black eye for the town to, drive in a populated space. And obviously, the cat doesn't belong to the homeowners, and for some reason, they have not chosen to move it, but it's in the road. It's on the edge of the road. And I don't know whether you expect citizens like myself to take a shovel in a bag and collect things like that, but I thought you should know that
Okay.
the 2 departments that I thought would take care of this, both of them said they don't do this anymore.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Just so that you know, I know as far as the signs, and I'm not defending it or anything, but I'm just saying, I know there was some involvement with Dig Safe over there where the signs are, so I can't say that that's the reason why where they are or not, but I know Dig Safe was notified about that.
We know you can dig safe there, because we've been digging there a long time.
Well, I'm just,
The poles go down into the ground.
because the poles do go down into the ground, and Dig Safe did come by, and I didn't install them, so I don't know, I'm just letting you know that Dig Safe had to go there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other public comment? Well, seeing none,
And if I could, I don't
Sure.
wanna make this a big deal, but they did talk to me I talked to them on Saturday, and Ken Richard, who's a volunteer, put the sign in. It is about 1 foot into their garden. And that's the only place that he could put it. So,
and this is a sign for the 250th?
and it's gonna come down
It's the
once we hit our
thermometer
goal. It's a
sign.
thermometer sign that was supposed to go up a long time ago, but
Right.
he couldn't get it in, and then the whole dig safe thing. So, I mean, that was fully disclosed where we were putting that, that sign, those signs. So, that was that. No disrespect to the garden club. Certainly that wasn't the intent, and I know Ken did his very best not to, so it's not, if you go by there, it's not like it's smack in the middle of the garden.
Right.
It's literally like 1 little foot, and I think Ken even offered to like rototill another area to try to give them more planting space, so.
No, well, I understand that, I understand the concern, but, I mean, this is the 250th anniversary, and it's a fundraising event for it. So, this is not something that goes on, and the signs will be down, when will they be down?
Well, the thermometer sign will come down hopefully as soon as we hit our target, so please donate.
Okay, so the more money we get, the
more
sooner the
money-
sign comes
So
down.
people want to contribute more money. Now, the good news is that we're probably within now $3,000, where I said it was 5. We've
Right.
gotten a couple of big donations in the last couple of weeks. But the other sign that says donate for fireworks, that sign's gonna remain up throughout the year, because there'll be a schedule of events sign that'll be on there in the next couple of weeks. So that one will remain. The thermometer sign will come down when we hit our target.
All right. Next item, we're running a few minutes early. It's scheduled for 6:30 with Assistant Town Administrator Derek Warren. And I'm gonna ask Derek if you're ready to proceed, or do we need to wait for anybody else?
No.
It's up to you. You have
I can
the
proceed.
floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here on 3 matters tonight. The first 2 are follow-ups to the April 25th meeting, when I came before you with 2 track issues. The first one is the John Brown track at Barnard Park. From that meeting, we were trying to extend the lease. There was a 25-year lease that ran from 1985 to 2010. And then in 2009, there was a consensus of the board and the school board to extend that lease, but it never got followed through on. So at the April 25th meeting, the school board chair, Philip Pankos, came before you, and there was discussion about extending it until 2014 and adding a clause to allow the school district access to water. Working with Superintendent Buckley, we made those changes, and at the May 16th, 2011 meeting, the school board voted to sign that 4-year lease extension running to 2014. And I just recommend that you authorize that 4-year extension.
Okay, on that extension, do we have any questions?
No.
Derek, anybody have any questions? And what is it you're looking for us? You're looking for a motion from us, Derek?
Yes, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
Just one clarification, the access to water wasn't for irrigation, it was just so they could have.
It was for
Drinking
drinking water, thank you. And we did make it clear it was for school events, not for,
Well, I mean, we're not gonna see hoses and
Yeah.
all irrigation, okay.
That's a good question. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. And next item, Derek?
The next item was the GTV studio at the high school. That was a 2-year lease that was enacted in June of 2009,
Yep.
set to expire in 2011. The Cable Access Committee did provide 2 comments relative to their May 16th meeting. And we made changes in response to that. One of their suggestions was to change the number of DVDs provided to the school board. In the past, I believe it had said there would be 4 DVDs provided, but now that they have video on demand, they suggested doing 1 and uploading to video on demand. And the other item that they would have liked to seen change was the annual review requirement, but again, I recommend that stay in there, and just, their comment was it hasn't happened in the past, but I think it's still important to keep those lines of communication open and review it every year. The Superintendent Buckley saw no issues with it and was pleased with the language, so I just asked for a motion to authorize the 5-year extension, and then also authorize the chairman of the Board of Selectmen to sign the agreement.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, question though.
Yes.
You're looking for 1 change?
1 change.
Okay, so the acceptance would be, the motion should be acceptance with the 1 change.
Change has been,
acceptance of the
has the
agreement
change
before
been
you-
made
Yeah.
in the
That's what it
document
says
we've
here.
read?
The change has been made to the document that's in your packet
Right,
tonight.
and that's what I motioned. So if I need to
Oh,
clarify
okay,
that.
okay, I just wanted to be clear that we are not making a motion on the existing lease
Correct.
that's there.
One
Is
is
why I'm,
before you. One is
right,
before
that-
us in our
as
packet.
long as that's clear, okay? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 It's unanimous. Thank you. One more?
Yes, the last item was in March, from the Board of Selectmen meeting. It became clear that the board was looking for some direction on the implementation of RSA 7090, the revitalization tax relief incentive. What I did is I drafted up an application and an application, I guess, procedure on how it could go, and have provided that to you this evening. I brought this information to the EDC at their April 26th meeting. They did not take any formal vote that night, but the consensus of the EDC was they did not want to be a requirement or, a required step in that process, because they were fearful of slowing down the process and potentially slowing down somebody going through that application process. And just to go through the application process, after I talked to Carlos Baella, who's the Deputy City Manager in charge of Development in Concord, and Jay Minkara, who's the Director of Economic Development in Manchester, they basically gave an overview of what their communities did, and which were very similar. And they had a simple application process. Staff confirmed eligibility and completeness of the application, and then the development offices, which included the assessor, building department, planning and zoning, as well as administration, would sit down and discuss the public benefit clauses that fall under the statute, and they would make a recommendation to, in their case, the aldermen, but to the governing body on the length of tax relief period and covenants to protect that public benefit. And they do not have a predetermined scorecard or anything that would, an equation that would give you the number of years. And after working, going through it and developing the application process and talking with EDC and those 2 gentlemen, I feel the same way, that you're going to have different applications, and over time, hopefully, the economic conditions of the town are going to change. So to develop a scorecard, you might be setting it today for the type of development that's in town and the type of development that you're targeting, but that could change 5, 6 years down the road, that you're going to have to continually change your scorecard. Or what you can do is, because it requires a public process with a public hearing, is to get recommendations from staff and then through the public hearing process, take that into consideration and weigh that against the public comment that you get when you're determining the length of relief.
Okay. Any questions of Derek? Nick?
Just a comment. When this came up before us, I had expressed an interest in seeing something like this, not for formula, but basically a very set procedure so that everyone is assured of being treated equally. And I think you did a wonderful
This does
job
it, yeah.
in putting this together. I think this is exactly what we're looking for, what I'm looking for, as far as transparency and
Right.
very objective methodology.
Yeah, and what I tried to do is mirror the TRC process that the planning department follows, and to get consideration from all departments that it's affected, so.
Okay, Scott?
Yeah, I also thought you did an outstanding job on this, and, I mean, not to create more work for the town, but there are a lot of very, I'd say, like, I don't know, outdated forms. And this one here is just very professional, clear, concise. I looked at it, I'm like, wow, you know, all of our other ones should mirror this. I mean, if you've ever gone online, you've seen some of these things. You know, I've had to fill out some, like, event permit licenses and different things, and something like this should be more of a template, I think. You know, used as a template. It's just, you did a really nice job.
Well, thanks, and I mean, some of the credit does, Brian Rose has started to implement this over in the planning department, and that's kind of where I took some of this
Yeah.
format.
Well, then kudos to him as well, and,
Yep.
but,
Okay. David?
Derek, on the review process, you listed 7 steps culminating in a selectman's decision.
Yes.
I kind of understand step 6, which is the public hearing for the issue has to be within 60 days of the applicant submission. And then within 45 days after the public hearing, the selectmen would vote.
Yes.
What do you envision is happening in 45 days?
Anytime I've been involved with a public hearing when it's could be a complicated development, there are usually questions that cannot be answered at that public hearing process. So I think, my guess is there will be questions that will come up during that public hearing that require more information from the applicant, that it'll be bringing that information back to the board to do. If it's a simple matter that can be dealt with that night, and the Board of Selectmen, it was, you know, if you were ready to vote on it, I think you could do it. But that 45 days is written in statute, and I viewed it as an opportunity to answer any questions.
And I know, like later this evening, we're discussing an ordinance, and in that case, we wait to 10 to 14 days after the second hearing to make a decision. Is there any requirement like that in this?
There's no requirement in the
So
statute.
we could make a decision the same evening?
You could, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just to follow up on that, the question that I had on the statute that we're following, on that step 6, when you talk about that public hearing, is that a public hearing that is spelled out inside of that statute that we're holding? The reason for my question is, following up as a comment, when you said the additional time for your 45 days,
Yes.
is the way this operates, this public hearing, not, and that's the basis of my question, can the public hearing be continued like a public hearing at the planning board? Or is this a public hearing, that type of public hearing that we hold, it's held one time, you generally don't continue it like the planning board?
The statute is not clear. It does, all the provisions for the public hearing are contained. They're under RSA 79E:4, and it provides that the governing body shall hold a public hearing to take place no later than 60 days from receipt of application. There's no information on whether or not you could continue that public hearing, and then the Roman numeral, that's Roman numeral 2. Roman numeral 3 talks about 45 days later, you have to render a decision. So I think that could be clarification, talking with either LGC or with Attorney Drescher.
Reason I'm asking and the concern that I have is if we have a public hearing and there's some additional information that cannot, because this is, as you've said, a complex project, and there's some additional information, we are receiving additional information after that public hearing is closed, or can we continue that to another meeting, get that information, because now we have a public hearing that's been continued, receive that, because the planning board can't take information that comes from questions or additional from the public hearing unless they have the public hearing. So I guess I'm questioning, my concern is if we close the public hearing and we get additional information that wasn't available at the public hearing, now we're supposed to act on it, and it didn't come in as a public hearing.
In my experience, working with the land use boards would be, you could continue that public hearing, but I think that's something that would definitely need to be double-checked
Okay.
and looked at.
Nick?
And I think one of the things that we probably will need to do is review this prior to scheduling the public hearing, so we can flush out all those questions, then schedule your public hearing, hopefully have that information, and then still have 45 days after that to gather any other information that we need.
Yeah, well, I guess the discussion that we're having right now, as far as the process that you outlined in here, the 1 through 7 steps, that's the only thing that at this point seems to be the thing that we have a question on somehow. Because if the public hearing could be continued, then item 7, really, we don't need, am I correct?
Well, you're required to make a decision no later than 45 days after the
Statute.
Yeah, by
That's in the
statute.
statute.
Okay, so that's needed in there, so then what we need clarification is,
60 days.
can we continue the public hearing for the purpose of receiving additional information that was not available at the time of the first public hearing?
I don't think it's the same as a planning board public hearing, in that we need to have a public hearing, but I don't think there's anything that prevents us from getting information at any time.
Right. It's not like the
This isn't a
planning
planning
board.
board,
Okay,
site
well,
plan
I just
review.
wanted to make sure that we're all on the same, that we have this process, so we just need some clarification on that. So we could adopt this, we could accept this and adopt this, just subject to confirmation that
Yeah, confirmation that whether or not it can be continued, or
we need,
does that
Or you-
first public hearing trigger that 45-day timeline? Yeah,
right.
that's
Okay.
something we could confirm, absolutely.
And, no, as far as the other 3 sets of forms, I thought you did an excellent job on that, Derek. I think it's pretty clear. So you're looking for us to adopt the procedure, 1 through 7, and these 3 forms.
Correct, and then, I apologize, I'm not real familiar on the application fee, if that needs to be noticed, or how we would determine that, because the application fee does need to be determined to offset the cost of noticing, and some of the staff time to gather that information, so.
Yeah, we'd have to do a public hearing.
Right, I was gonna
on
say, because I think we would be
these.
required for
One
public.
public
Right, on that. Nick, you had a question?
No, I was gonna make a motion to accept the Assistant Town Administrator's recommendations for the application review process and his recommended application,
Right, subject to the clarification.
subject to the clarification we
Is
spoke
there a
about.
second?
Second.
Seconded by Steve. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much, Derek.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nice job. Brian too, I guess. What's the change that for?
Okay, our next item on the agenda is 7 o'clock for a second public hearing regarding Glen Lake. Our 7:30 appointment with Jack Morehouse has been canceled,
Yes.
okay? And then we have 8 o'clock, the Eagle Scout project, so we should probably proceed with the town administrator's report at this time.
And we were able to get a hold of the Eagle Scout. He will be in at 7:30.
Oh, okay,
Thank you.
okay. Great.
Tonight, your weekly meeting schedule, well, two weeks of meetings are in your packet because next Monday's a holiday, so there'll be no selectmen's meeting. Consensus folder tonight includes your AP warrants, employee status reports, 5 call firefighter resignations, 1 EMT resignation. Also, you have the police chaplain employee status report and the retirement of a police officer and also the becoming a special officer for that same officer. Event permits for the 32nd Annual Dave French Goffstown Gallop on June 25th, and thank you letters for service.
A motion?
Motion to accept the consensus folder.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. We have some,
I had a question.
yes.
We have like a few long-term employees that are retiring, and I know that the department heads typically have a party and that type of thing, but is there a protocol for us as a board in terms of when to recognize that level of service? I mean, a lot of them
It's
have
usually
20
after
years.
Usually,
parties.
it's usually
Okay.
at the,
Okay. I say that because I don't know if one of the firefighters, I haven't heard anything, you know, and one of them is retiring like this week.
That's true.
Yeah.
mhm.
I haven't heard. Have
Yeah.
you heard anything there?
And,
I can check.
and sometimes
I'll
those
check
parties
and see.
happen after they're retired, I
Right.
understand that, but I
Right.
just wanna make sure that we don't show that we show recognition and that,
Yeah, we
We're not
usually do
Right. at the retirement party, so. yeah.
right. Okay.
Also, I wanted to bring to your attention 9A in your packets. We typically don't do this, but it seems like, from what I've seen, the Budget Committee's watching expenditures line by line, and we did do a reorganization here, which means moving money around within Town Hall to accommodate those lines. And so you have a chart, which ones should be reduced or added to make it come out looking like we're following our budget. But like I said, we've never done this, and this would be like the second column, you have the adopted budget column on your,
Right.
and then you have the operating budget, and that's the column that you would change if you wanted to shift money between lines.
Okay, and that's gonna be in the entire budget? Or is that just in the town hall budget?
Town hall, it only affected, this is due to the reorganization in town hall.
You would only put in the budget where needed, is what you're saying?
Right,
Right, okay. No, I just wanted to,
Good.
so we have
those would be the
clarified.
lines, all the line numbers at the top are the actual budget account lines.
Right, I thought that, but I just wanted to make sure on that.
I'll make a motion that transfer monies in the operating budget column on the report that we have before us, on the monthly report, to accurately reflect the reorganization.
Second.
I just have a question.
Question, Steve?
Is it going to be, what's the best way, amounts or percentages? I mean, are we going to talk about minor changes?
I guess I'm gonna jump in.
All right.
If that's all right.
Go ahead.
Are you saying that, I mean, this is, you look at these numbers, and in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah,
this is nothing.
Right.
It's a few $1,000s that went from here to there, and in my 4.5 years on this board, we've never
Right.
done anything like that, and I'm a little bit concerned. I mean, I can understand if we're taking $50,000 from, which we did. We took $80,000 from a sidewalk last year to fix pools. I'm clearly, that is something that needs to be talked about, et cetera. But I think this one, you know, it's a couple $1,000s moving around, and I can make an argument that we do that in every single department because we lose, say, a police officer, we hire one at a lower rate, but yet our fuel costs went up. Well, of course that happens all the time. If we were to do that every single time, it would be extremely cumbersome and time-consuming. So I appreciate what you did. I don't think it's necessary I mean, that's part of managing your budget.
Well, going back to my point, larger amounts, I
Yeah.
don't see smaller amounts, so I didn't know if there was a threshold we were going to talk about or put to this.
I was just doing it for the reorganization.
Right.
Things
That-
that happen from vacancies or, things like that, I don't move it around then.
And I think that's what triggered it, because if you continued the way it was before the reorg, it
It's gonna
really
look like
wouldn't.
some
right.
departments are
Right,
overspent,
and I think
some
this one
offices
is, this one would
overspent.
be an exception because it's bodies that changed a little
Right.
bit, and I think that makes
And
sense,
now,
but.
and it-
right.
well, and in this case, you're saying, because it adds clarity to.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, so there's been a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous.
Okay, also in your packet, I think it was a loose item in here, on the crack ceiling bid results.
Right.
I did open those last week. And for the record, there were, let's see, 8 bidders. And Carl is recommend, and the names are Ann Seal Inc. for 21 cents square yard, Connecticut Seal Coating, and I'll give
Yep.
this to you.
I have it now
Okay.
recorded.
.268 per square yard, Seal Coating Inc., .290 square yard, HW Dow, he did not adhere to the specs. Bedford Seal Coating, .088, Crack Sealing, Inc. is .69, Nikon was .12, and US Pavement was .48. And Carl's reviewed them, and he recommends a low bidder, Bedford Seal Coating.
Did he elaborate at all that between the low bid and the high bid is a factor of 7?
Yes, Bedford actually came in and took a look at all the roads and the amount of seal coating that actually had to be done.
Previous years, it was on, was it
A gallon, basically.
Gallon,
Volume.
Right.
volume of tar?
Yeah.
This time it's just square yards of road, and so
Correct.
one would have to be familiar with how bad or how good the roads are.
Oh,
Exactly.
this is price per square yard
Yep.
of road?
Yes.
The width of-
I assumed the way
Width.
this is written, price per square yard, I thought it was per,
It's,
Of
no,
seal coat.
Carl had explained it to the board.
Yep,
okay,
It's the width of the road times the length of the road, and
okay.
some roads have more cracks on it than other roads.
and he actually came and checked each one.
Okay.
So Carl's confident.
Motion to accept
Okay.
the Public Works Director's recommendation for crack sealing award
For 2011.
for Bedford Seal Coating for 2011.
Second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
That's it?
That's it?
Way ahead of
Blazing
schedule. Yes.
Easy.
Okay, and the Eagle Scout will be here at 7:30. Well, if we're done with the town administrator's report, we'll move on to Selectmen's discussion, new business. Do we have any new business? Old business, roundabout update?
Get that in our packet, I think. Paul.
Yeah.
That was in the mail basket.
Okay.
Hand you them back.
Was there any discussion on that? Okay, department goals?
DPW, but that was in the packet.
That's, I'm trying to, where was it in the packet?
10B,
Pardon?
10B.
NB. Third page of 10B.
Yeah, it's in the back. That's
Last
probably why
page.
you can't see it.
Very
Almost
last
the last
page.
page. Looks like
Right, that's
Oh,
why.
no wonder I couldn't
Yeah.
read. Sorry, it's to the
Yeah,
top, thank you.
it's covered.
third page back, Steve.
Thank you.
It's a full page of typing. 5 basic initiatives for the Department of Public Works. And let me just summarize the 5, and I'll not go into detail on number 5. But the first one is finish the negotiations with the Teamsters. Number 2, generate public news releases of the services and the infrastructure improvements being done by Public Works. Also, review, update web pages. Third initiative is work on the design of next year's road projects. so that the construction can start earlier in the season. Number 4, ensure adequate public works fleet radio communications once the police department and fire department switch over to the new voter repeater capability. And number 5 is to seek a diversified sources of revenue, the fund expenses that would otherwise be part of general operation funds. And just the titles of those funds is stormwater utility fee, waste reclamation fee, municipal transportation improvement fee, and some variation on a pay-as-you-throw solid waste collection. So, I can go into further detail, or you might want to start off with questions.
Are you making a suggestion that
Well,
there be
these,
questions of you?
if you want to help Carl focus on any of these, more than what is on the sheet, we'll welcome that.
Okay, Scott?
I think we should have a discussion on some of these revenue things and to see which ones this board wants to see further study on. And do we want to see all 4 or 1 or 2 of them? Some of them we've already talked about to a certain degree. And the other thing that there's a lot of them say, recommendation is to ask for a study, and sometimes that study is by Solid Waste Commission, and should we ask them to be doing 2 studies or just simply 1, and which one has a greater priority? The other thing too is that philosophically, a fee, we've talked about this, a fee is a form of a tax. So then again, it's also, a fee can also be termed a user tax, where the users are paying for it and people who aren't are not. Similar to what's going on nowadays with Parks and Rec, we're charging some nominal fees, but users are paying for it and others aren't. So, if we look at D for an example, a variation of pay as you throw, there was some discussion about you'd have a certain size garbage tote, and then if you wanted something more.
Which is free.
Right, which is free. And then if you wanted something larger, then, perhaps there would be a fee for that. Again, that might encourage people to recycle more, to, keep the garbage, to a minimum.
Can we jump back there? I just want to make sure we clarify free. I'm not sure where free came in anywhere when we do trash.
Well,
when we do
I think what he
recycling,
means,
okay.
what he means is
Okay, I know,
no
but I wanna make
additional
sure-
cost.
We just didn't like the way the word was used, that's all. Okay,
Well,
Included in one's tax bill.
thank you.
the current methodology.
Yes.
Right, but I think, in trying to, keep the tax rate down, I think there has to be a recognition that we are not doing as much as we can do on a lot of projects. So, there's only so much time that you can defer, in my opinion, your roads or your infrastructure, knowing that a lot of these things, the costs are going up and up and up. So when we talk about things like stormwater utility fee, these are things that are being imposed upon us by different local, state and federal agencies where we have to, take all these different actions, and there's a cost. So how are you going to pay for it? So either you're going to increase your taxes, increase your budget, thus increasing taxes, or you implement some sort of a user fee. So, or you decrease level of service somehow to compensate. So personally, I think there's going to need to be a study of some of these things. What are the cost benefits of them? And yeah, is it a tax? You're damn right it's a tax, but it may be a tax that's needed in order for us to do what we have to do, to follow the law.
And the important point here is introduces a diversified source of that revenue, not solely dependent on property taxes.
Right. I.e., that would be C, right? The municipal transportation improvement fee, which we talked about this 3-4 years ago in terms of that, rail trail development alternative, you could use it for that. This would simply be for other, you can use it for anything that's transportation related, right?
Yes.
And what you're saying there is that, unlike right now where the property owner is the only one contributing to the tax base, well, and the motor vehicle registration fees, this would also be more up towards the motor vehicle users who may be renters or something, right? Or,
Correct.
okay.
Well, also, with that regard, if one family has 5 vehicles, they might be paying 5 times the fee versus somebody that has 2 vehicles or 1 vehicle, or no vehicle.
I'd like to pick up the discussion on item B, which was the waste reclamation fee. Currently, residents can bring tires to the transfer station, but it's a fee for bringing them in as they bring in tires. That may set up a situation where there's a reluctance of bringing tires in, or improperly disposing of them. With a waste reclamation fee in place, being funded by automobile registrations, those tires, motor oils, batteries would be brought in free to the without any additional fee.
Right.
To the transfer station, thus encouraging the proper disposal of those items.
Rather than along the roadside.
And currently, the town, we incur greater expenses disposing of tires than what the residents pay. Not because what they pay doesn't cover the cost of their tires, but we collect a lot of tires abandoned or improperly disposed by the side of the road.
Can we, sorry,
Go ahead, Steve.
as we go for it, I'd like to put this in perspective as we go down the road, if we talk about these and we say a lot, I want to know what a lot is.
Carl has those numbers, yes.
Okay, and part of it, sometimes you look at, whenever you implement these fees, first of all, they're taxes. I never care for these additional type fees that are part of the big process. But the other piece is that there's still cost in implementing that. And if someone says, oh, it's just an extra 100 tires at $3 a tire, I don't know if I'm there for $300 in this type fee by saying, how many cars do we register?
About 18,000.
18,000, so we're not talking about $300 worth of tires that we had to take care of. Now we're talking something, a much different piece where we're actually changing taxes, and it's not very clear, it's not on the level.
Right, and just Nick and then Scott, but just a follow-up on that, one of the things that's on here with when you talk about motor oil, many people have their oil changed at a place and they charge them a fee for disposal of the used oil someplace else, and now when I come here and I register my 5 vehicles, I'm gonna pay 5 times for motor oil disposal that I pay when I have my oil changed in another town through another dealer. So, I mean, that's something else.
And we
to
take
think of.
motor oil here for free.
We burn it.
Right,
So
but,
someone can bring it here at no cost.
right, but I'm saying if we're gonna start implementing a fee for it, yet I have my oil changed and I'm charged where I have it changed for a disposal fee on that, which many places do charge, hazardous material.
Mr. Chair, I
I
wasn't anticipating a lot of discussion or
Well-
decisions this evening, but I want to, during the course of the next few months, I would like this board to take up discussions on these, and whether we like to gather further information from an appropriate committee for a recommendation back to this board.
Okay, well,
That,
Scott, did you have a comment?
No, that was about it.
Did you? You're all set?
Well, I would hate to see studies going on if the board is not in favor of these items, again, because we're wasting staff time. Personally, I'm not in favor of fees like this, because as you said, they're taxes. And I don't know if someone really wants to have an increase in their auto registration fee if they're not disposing of tires or oil or batteries.
Right.
You know, it goes, I think, to what Selectman Gross was saying earlier, that you want to have fees targeted to the people that are using the items. You know, and if we need to increase the actual fee for disposing of these items, then maybe that's where we should look, for the individuals that are actually bringing things to the transfer station.
Well, I think Selectman Pierce has solid waste.
correct.
well, if you wanna bring it up next time you guys have a meeting and you guys have a discussion, and
There's two of these which are appropriate for solid waste to take upon themselves and offer recommendations.
Just a general comment, I remember many years ago at a town meeting and the discussion of a fee. And the biggest argument against it was, it is a form of taxation and we won't get to write it off on our taxes. If it's a property tax, we get to write it off.
that's one part, but, we're down to 5 more minutes. Do you wanna discuss anything more on this one? At this point,
I've done my best.
okay. Anything else on the park, folks?
I have old business.
I do have old business on the park, on the DPW.
I have old business for DPW.
Then I'll wait for you to go first, in
Okay.
case you cover it.
Okay, go ahead, David.
Yes, I'd like to remind the public that the transfer station, their normal hours, up till the beginning of this spring, as we all know, were Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Start over again. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 7:30 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. A month ago, we extended the Thursday hours from 3 to 7 p.m. So I just want to put the reminder out there to the public. Transfer station is also available Thursday from 3 to 7 p.m., and that will be effective until the 15th of November. We're seeing some traffic come in those hours, but it does no harm to further advertise it.
I don't look at the sign there all the time. I know that there's a sign on the DPW, there's a little message at the bottom, and it says closed Tuesday after Memorial Day, which we understand. So if that's another public address, public information, so they're closed. But I was wondering if perhaps they could advertise that open Thursdays, 3 to, so less people know. We do have a sign, and why not use the sign to advertise the fact that it's open?
Thank you for that recommendation.
Any other questions?
Just a quick question regarding, we'd taken a vote regarding Mass Road between Shaw's and Dana's Park. And what came up with that we were going to make an area, I wanna say, we're talking 4 to 5 feet. And they went by last week, I don't know if they're done or not, was that the finished product? What they did last week, they came by and they used the
Shouldering machine.
Yes, they did, and they showed us a few spots here and there, and did you look at it?
Yes,
And was that a finished product?
I'm tempted to say yes. This board asked for the shoulders to be placed on both sides of the road where necessary.
Then
and
I would.
They did that.
And did you have a conversation?
You have some observations. Do you like to tell me?
Yes, I have. I'm sure you had the same observation as I.
It seemed pretty narrow from what I've seen.
No, it was
like 2 feet.
There was
if
a
that.
couple spots here and there. I mean, it was not what I was expecting. We had also talked about the distance at with all the properties, even going up through by the last house.
Well, those are good observations, and let me bring them back to the department.
I mean, did they really, not to be mean, I think 2 guys in a wheelbarrow could have done what I saw there.
Not to
I'm
be
just
mean,
being-
don't
I'm being
be
fair.
mean.
I'm being fair. I looked at it, I said, is this it?
It was my understanding that in lieu of a asphalt sidewalk, which I don't know what the specs are, I believe it's 3-4 feet? Sidewalk, yeah. 5
Well,
feet,
a
okay.
normal sidewalk would be 5 feet
Right,
wide.
but in this particular case, we can't because there's some issues there. But in most cases, it's 2 feet. And I know what my desire was when I suggested it, was that it would be pretty much wide enough to at least be serviceable as a sidewalk, knowing that, so if you could just take that back, it just seemed like we shouldered it, and that's not what,
It wasn't even
that wasn't what my intent was.
I don't know if anyone took a look at it, you saw it, I saw it.
I kind of believe it's the width of what the shouldering machine will lay, so maybe a second pass will,
Or third.
or third. We'll extend the width through the, I think our intent when this board discussed it was to fill in some of the low spots between the pavement and where the
In
puddles
fact,
were
some of
always
the lowest spots weren't
accumulating.
even touched.
You didn't get to it yet.
No, I think it's done.
7 o'clock, we have a public hearing. Okay, make those notes, Dave.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
7 o'clock, we have a public hearing regarding the Glen Lake ordinance. And there was a legal notice in the paper, the New Hampshire Union Leader, Friday, April 29th. Town of Goffstown public hearings. In compliance with RSA 41:14-B, the Board of Selectmen announces public hearings on 5/9/2011 and 5/23/2011 at 7 p.m. at Town Hall, 16 Main Street, Goffstown, New Hampshire, to accept public input on amendments to the Glen Lake ordinance. Copy of the proposed ordinance is available online at www.goffstown.com or in the town clerk's office. Any person with a disability who needs a reasonable accommodation, please call the town hall, 497-8990, extension 100, at least 72 hours in advance for arrangements. And that was April 29th. And 7 o'clock, and I'm going to open a public hearing. And Chief, did you want to present anything? Mr. Wood? Okay, with that. Purpose is to accept input from the public. Is there any member of the public who would like to make a comment? Yes, we're going to need your name for the record. Could you come up here, please?
I'm a little nervous.
That's okay, just calm down, have a seat. We need your name for the record.
My name is Janine Pomelo,
Okay.
and I live on Glenwood Drive. And we're very happy that this is being talked about because we purchased our house almost 5 years ago, and the thought that we would be able to use Glen Lake, and so far really have not been able to use it. Every summer, it's just overflowing with people and trash, and I know it said in the article that they had put out trash barrels last year to take care of that issue. They still were overflowing last year. I mean, we find dirty diapers. There's like people having family reunions down there, it seems. It's just, it's not a desirable place to go. And, you know, we're within walking distance. We're also getting the overflow of parking on Upton and Glenwood, which I like the proposal, but what makes us nervous is that it's going to increase traffic on our roads. We have, personally, we have a 2-year-old, we have a dog, we have cats. There's a lot of small children in our neighborhood. The people fly down there when they use it as a cut-through or when they go to turn around to go to Glen Lake. That makes us very nervous to have the increased traffic there. And when it's people who aren't local, they don't necessarily care about the neighborhood. I guess that was our biggest concern was, you know, because it said in it, you would have to be a resident to park in the parking spaces or at the school, but it doesn't mention anything about Upton Lane or Glenwood, and I don't know how you could enforce that. Obviously, they're public streets, but that would be, the expectation is that people would park there as they already do. So that was just our concern and wanted to voice it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else who would like to make a comment? Yeah. Sure, come on up. We'll need your name for the record.
My name is Lauren Kea. I live on Juniper Drive, and I just read about this a couple days ago in the paper, and I missed the first meeting. I was out of town, I guess, but I just thought I'd like to hear a little bit of input from people on what the complaint was about out of town, out of Goffstown, or people, I guess, using the beach. I know the trash probably was an issue in the paper and said that it was had been corrected or whatever, but the parking, the people that go there, I know it's quite crowded there in the summer. I don't go there too often myself, but people who go there now and spend the day with their children and that from probably the inner city, I'm guessing, are probably still going to come there. And like this lady just mentioned here, they're probably going to park on her street or looked like Big Jane Lane is probably the only nearest parking along the side of that road, so. And I'm just wondering if the town has the right to dictate who parks on the side of a state highway. As far as putting a sign up there and saying residents only, you know, maybe in the trailer parking area, which I assume is still gonna be open to anybody who wants to go there from Goffstown or not. That's how I understood it, right? So it seems like we're favoring one crowd and not another. And I know a lot of persons go there. I've been there a few times myself, and I see a lot of families there, like I said, probably from in Manchester area, and I don't know if it's right to exclude them people by making this parking law. And I also read that we're gonna have our transfer station stickers as a legal means of parking there. Mine, for obvious reasons, is on my truck, so I guess I'd have to use my truck to go to the beach instead of being able to use my car or whatever. I don't know how you're gonna do that, but my feeling is I live a mile away, and I do go there, and I had a boat, and I intend to buy one again. I know it's not easy, the parking is not easy, but the school seems to have ample parking over there. I've never taken notice. I thought we couldn't park in the school, and I never really took notice of how many cars are in there during a summer day, you know, during a nice day. But anyways, I came here about 9 years ago, probably before this park was built, and it was a meeting over that same issue when people were from the lake were complaining about people that were going there at the time before it was even developed, and they were concerned about parking and oil and dripping by, and the cars were parked there and all the rest of the stuff, which turned out to be a non-issue. So I just don't, and when I go around Winnipesaukee as I used to, and all the little towns have all their little signs up there saying that, you know, locals only type thing, and any little beaches that are along there, it kind of bothered me to think that I was excluded as a tourist or as a non-resident. You can't come here is about what it said. And this to me would be the same thing down here. I understand this lady's concerned about the parking. It's gonna be forced up into her area, there's no question about that. And I wonder how many Goffstown residents would actually go to that beach for any more than an hour or so if they could. I mean, I expect to see that school in that parking lot mostly empty most of the day. That's what I think would happen. I don't think it's gonna be all of a sudden a huge influx of local people that wanna go to that beach for the day. And a lot of persons who they come down there, and a lot of guys fish there. There's some there right now. I just passed. There's already 5 or 6 cars there loading and unloading boats, and you see a lot of the canoes, the plastic canoes and whatever on top of their cars, usually in the spring, maybe in the whatever. They like to use that area too, so it'd be probably pretty inconvenient for anybody to have to travel or walk from Big Jane's is about the only place on the way up here I had to look at. It's the only place you can get off the road, other than where all the no parking signs are. So that's all I wanted to say, and if this comes into effect, I'm just wondering about how we're gonna know, beside from a sticker on your truck, who's legal. If you go there in your car because you have more than 4 or 5 people to take up there, then and you get a ticket, then what happens? That was a question I had. I don't know if anybody here can answer that or not. Perhaps the police chief can, I don't know, but.
Yeah, I could.
Scott?
I think if that were the case, then, I mean, I would recommend that you would get a transfer station sticker for your other vehicle, and then there wouldn't be a problem.
It seems like an odd way to control things, but anyways, I don't think it's very hospitable of Goffstown to put up signs like that, to do that kind of thing. And I know there's limited parking there. There should be more. You know, there should be more. And the trailer parking pretty much is all they got, and a few spots on the side of the road. You got the trailer parking there, and that's just for people that have boats. That's it. I don't know. It seems like I said earlier, the way I read it is that if you got a boat, you can come here. If you don't, stay away or walk a mile. I just don't like the idea, that's all.
Okay. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
input. Appreciate it.
Could I add something to mine?
Could we just see, can you just hold off on somebody else that may not have spoken? Anybody else? I guess you're welcome to come up.
You talk about not having a lot of parking spaces. Well, there's just not a lot of space there. I mean, the beach area is very limited. You know, there's some areas where it would be more conducive to fishing and stuff amongst the woods, but it is a very small area. So I don't think adding a lot of parking is a solution, because there's only so much area that there is. So it makes more sense to me that the trailer parking area is a little bigger, because obviously they'd go off into the lake and there's more room for that. Another concern we have with people parking on Upton is it's hazardous. When you turn on there, like I know several times last year when we go to turn, the people are parking almost all the way down to the main road. So you turn on there really quick and you're not gonna notice a car that's parked right there. It's just, I guess, if that becomes the case, we'd wanna make sure that the police do monitor parking a little more and make sure that the speed limits are upheld, and that's it.
Okay.
I'm really done this time.
Thank you very much. Anybody else who would like to make a comment? Going once? Going twice? Last call. Public hearing is closed. Thank you very much. Did any of the selectmen want to make a comment? If they did, I'll open. If not, okay. By statute, we have to wait 10 to 14 days.
Correct.
Is the window. We have to wait a minimum of 10 days to make a decision, and the decision has to be made within 14. So the window of 10 to 14 days is when we render a decision.
No meeting next week, so the week after
It'll be
is when
14
we have it
days.
scheduled.
It'll be on the 14th day. Okay? Thank you very much. Appreciate your input and your time coming down to Town Hall. Okay. I'm gonna ask a question. Are you here for a 7:30 appointment?
Yes.
We're running a few minutes early, and if you are all set and you would like to do it, or,
I can go now.
okay.
While he's setting up, can I take a 2-minute break?
You know what, we're gonna take a 2-minute break,
Just sit up.
give you a minute to relax, take your jacket off, get your stuff together, okay? And you can come right up here, where this chair is
Get
here,
things
or
set up.
up here, whichever you prefer. So just
Yeah, I was
give you,
actually just gonna ask.
yeah, a few minutes to set up, okay? This is Tyler Breckenridge, and you are an Eagle Scout?
I'm going for my Eagle Scout. This is just the project I want to do to get my Eagle Scout.
Correct. Right. And you're making a presentation to the board regarding your project?
Yep.
And are you all set?
Yeah. So,
Go right ahead.
the project I want to do involves going behind the Parks and Rec building in Goffstown, and we're going to be going behind the building to build some picnic tables.
Right.
And the project will involve going behind and clearing out some of the dead trees that are there that have fallen over time,
Mhm.
and cleaning up the trash in the area to make it room for the tables. And then there will be smaller trees that are there that are no bigger than 4 inches in diameter or smaller. They'll either be removed or trimmed. And I've spoken to an environmental commission before and to the environmental club at my school
Mhm.
to figure out the safest way to remove some of the branches for a view of the lake without harming the trees. And they've given me tips on how to do that. And we went behind the Parks and Rec building recently and went in to look for the Shoreline Protection Act
Right.
to make sure we could do this and still have people who are under the act. And we found divided up into 4 plots of land behind the area, each 50 feet by 50 feet squares. And in plot 1 there was 99 points worth of trees. In plot 2 there was 169 points worth of trees. In plot 3 there were 67 points worth of trees, and in plot 4 there were 52 points worth of trees.
How many on the last one?
52. And the act says there must be at least 50 points left of trees, and if there are some over, then it is okay to take out some of them as long as we leave 50 points. And in the area with 52, we are most likely not going to take out any trees, so the point system will stand as it is.
Right.
There will just be trim trees. Most of the work is for removing the smaller trees will be done in the large areas of the 169 point and 99 point plots, so there will still be over 50 points left of trees. As most of the bigger trees we're going to leave for shade, to shade the picnic tables. And then the picnic tables, when they're built, there's going to be 5 picnic tables built at an estimated cost of about $200 per picnic table. And we plan to make a couple of the tables extended at the end to make them handicap accessible. And that's the project.
Okay, great. Any questions of Tyler? Anything that you wanted to add, David? Steve?
Question? Obviously, there will be tree removal. What are you gonna be doing with the stumps?
The stumps we're going to be taking, I believe, to the transfer station.
You're pulling them out, or you're grinding them down, or, I mean, is someone donating them? I don't know how that was working for you.
As far as I know, we haven't figured out what the stumps, but I think we would take them out. But I'm gonna work with the environmental club to figure out the safest way to do that without like harming the soil on it, the earth.
If I'm not mistaken, I think you have to leave, in the Shoreline Protection Act, you might want to check, you might have to leave
Right,
the
the
root
roots and
structure.
ground.
Stuff that just grinded
stump.
down.
Right,
Yeah.
or cut them flush, or just below.
Yeah, I know in the watershed boundary, which is 50 feet from the shoreline, their stumps must be left
Mhm.
intact. But I didn't read anything about stumps in the extra 100.
Out of it.
Okay. And you have talked to Parks and Rec?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and they're all in favor?
Yep, I talked to the director, Mr. Wilhelmi, about the
Okay.
project.
Okay, and you're all squared away with there, so you're just basically asking for our permission to let you go forward?
Yes, please.
Okay, with that,
So
We-
moved. Motion to accept the Eagle Scout project, Tyler Breckenridge.
okay, and do we want to add to that what we did the last time for the approval to be done by Parks and Rec Commissioner?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay,
Second.
you got a second? Okay.
Great project.
All right, so, when we vote on this and approve this, we're gonna give you the permission, and, Parks and Rec Director, Mr. Wilhelmi, will be the one that'll be accepting it on behalf of the board, okay? And you probably are gonna need a copy of the minutes of this meeting with the approval for your project.
Yes, please.
Okay, so we'll get, and anything that you need to for your paperwork or anything, if you see Sue DeRusso, the town administrator, and she'll get you whatever you need for that, okay?
All right, thank you
All
very
right,
much.
is there any further discussion?
So this is gonna be ready for the gala?
Well, yeah, Steve, if you're down helping him,
And cause I mean, I expect the stairs, the other guy's doing the stairs, then we have a picnic area, you know, and for some of us who can't, who can't finish the gala or are exhausted, maybe you can be there to help us up there.
well, maybe when he has,
Oh, you're gonna need a stretcher for me, but. Yeah.
well, maybe what we can do is when this is all done and it's accepted by the Parks and Rec director, we'll go down and we'll cook hamburgers.
It's a great project, though.
Oh, wait a minute, we're gonna have to get a permit, a burning permit for the barbecue,
Great project.
so, okay? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous, you're all
Thank you
set.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we appreciate your work and look forward to your finished product. Thank you very much. Okay. We will continue back. We're done with department goals then. Committee reports, library trustees?
I went to the trustee meeting for a very short period of time, about 15 minutes, because I thought the Parks and Rec Commission meeting was at 7, but it was actually at 6:30 as well, so I only spent a little bit
So you
of
split
time.
it up, half and half?
Yeah, not really, but the only discussion that I attended was, there was a conversation about historical markers that are gonna be placed on the library land. I guess the library is one of the first to get the marker, and there was some discussion about that. I also received an email from one of the trustees that they had some discussion about the neighbor next door. There is a shared, it's an easement with a driveway.
Right.
And there was concerns from the trustees that the neighbor is parking in that driveway, which there is no parking allowed. And there was some issues about whether or not this person's site plan has been approved or not, because technically, that's one of the conditions of the site plan, is that there was no parking in that shared driveway. So, I'm not sure what the
The
status.
update today was that the site plan was approved,
Right.
and the neighbor has communicated with the library that he will not be blocking access.
Okay, so that was it, and that's all
So that's all correct, and see how easy that was?
beautiful. We can go on to the next one.
Okay. Parks and Rec,
All right.
you were there for 10 minutes?
No, I was there a lot longer.
Oh, okay.
And rather than boot up my laptop, this was a pretty lengthy meeting, and there's some issues that we have to discuss as a board, but they had a gentleman named Chris, I can't pronounce his name, Rialt, or, I don't know, am I butchering the name? I apologize. Rio, from Next Level Tennis. And as you know, they just instituted fees for use of facilities, et cetera, and this gentleman wants to provide private tennis lessons, and what they did was, there was a motion that was made and approved unanimously, that for every hour of service provided to the Parks and Rec tennis program, this organization will receive an hour of use. So it's an exchange of services. This person is gonna give tennis lessons to children within Goffstown, and in lieu of that, he will then be able to use 1 hour, so it's a kind of an exchange.
One for
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
You can look for questions after, or you're gonna go through?
Well, we can ask, I think it'd be
I don't know
easier,
how you wanna do it,
it'll be
that's all.
easier to do it as, I think, to do it as
So
they
you have a
come.
question, Steve?
When you do the tennis lessons, does he absorb all, let's say you go to Barney.
I don't know
Davis.
that.
That's always been, for those who do go and play, that is, sometimes you'll go there and you'll see lessons and they're using multiple courts, and that becomes an issue. So, yeah, as though I appreciate the concept there.
I was there for that part of the discussion,
okay.
Scott, and there will be one court left empty from when the vendor is using it for his classes.
And the vendor got a price
The-
for his lessons?
Yeah. And how much is an hour that
don't know
He's
if
gonna give
that-
an
Well, that wasn't discussed, what he charges, it's just that
No, no,
he's,
okay, so he would use, let's say he used up three courts, I'm just throwing that out there. If he used up, how many, Barney, I'm trying to
I
remember right
think
now.
there's at least 4.
I
There's
think
4.
there's 4,
Yeah,
okay.
is this really a discussion for here? or-
Well, no, because I'm not quite in favor of this just yet, that's why I'm bringing this up. But if you wanna pass on, I'll pass on.
Oh, no, okay, no, I just wasn't clear on where the discussion was going.
Well, where I was going was that I understand what they're trying to say, it's, hey, by the way, if someone wants to give lessons, they had instituted, first there was talk about instituting a fee. But for me, it's always the idea of usage to that. In other words, it's good to have, I can understand where they're having a private lessons by this individual, but if he's using 3/4 of the court for a period of time on a Sunday morning, for others who are going there, that really clogs up that clogs, you know, you're stuck, there's no usage there.
And I think it just clouds the issue, and it kind of gets back to the old system where I'll use the fields for a season, and in return, I'll fertilize them for you. And it just, to me, it seems it would be much cleaner and much easier to have the instructor charge the town for the instruction, and then in return, we have the revenue from the use of the courts. It just, to me, it seems much cleaner when we're doing it across the board. If you're using the courts, you're paying a fee. And if you're providing instructions, then you get paid for it. It should be a wash, but it just gets that gray area out of there as, you know, that bartering type system. And I think that's why we instituted the fees in the first place, to keep everything standardized and the same for everyone, easier to keep track.
Scott?
One of the things that I've kind of picked up on, especially doing this 250th committee, is that there are some people who cannot write a check, but yet they can give an in-kind donation of services or time, etc., which in some cases has a value in excess of what someone could write a check for. I think the difference between what maybe was done in the past was that there really wasn't any. There was a lot of deals that were done, but it was never really formal, and it was never. I understand the gray part of it, but no one even knew about them. Whereas I think in this particular case, do I think it needs to get tightened up? Yes, but I don't think, because, I mean, ostensibly what could happen is that this gentleman could say, okay, I'm going to rent these tennis courts for, I'm just going to throw out round numbers, for $1,000. And then I'm going to charge you $1,000 for the tennis lessons I'm going to be providing to the children of Goffstown.
Okay. What's
If that's the
problem with
route,
that?
there's not a huge problem with that. It would just, but it's, in some cases, it's not a whole lot different than, you know, what we're doing here. They've, again, I wasn't here for that discussion. I wasn't at the meeting for that discussion, Selectman Pierce was, but if that's what you want me to go back to the commission with, I can certainly state that the board has some reservations about this, and that we would prefer that be cleaner. You know, if I'm hearing, again, I was not there for that discussion, but I'm hearing two different issues. I'm hearing access from Selectman Fournier saying, you know what, 3/4 of the courts being occupied does not leave it, you know,
There's no accessibility for anybody else.
it's difficult. I'm hearing more of the transparency piece from Selectman Camposano saying, listen, it'll be a lot easier to say, okay, you know, we're charging you $1,000 to use the courts, you're charging us $1,000 for the lessons, and it's a push, but it's there. Is there anything else that you want me to go back?
Well, just a quick question. Under the current fee structure, can an individual go in and rent all of the courts?
Yeah, I would think that they can, yeah.
So access is really not I mean, it's an issue, but you could
But
conceivably.
would they? I mean, would,
You say an individual for a lesson, or an individual just wants to go down there and use it?
Well, we charge fees for someone who is providing lessons.
Lessons, correct.
So could an individual under those circumstances go in and
there is no
rent
policy, right, with the Parks and
rent
Rec
the
on
courts?
in the discussion, it was clear that the commission wanted one court to remain free for the walk-in public. So if a vendor were to approach the park commission and say, I'd want to rent all 4 courts, my feeling right now is they would say, well, we'll only rent 3.
And your issue is that you think it's only be 2?
Two, I think it should only be one, personally. I mean, I think it's just the reverse. I would like to think that I have
Well, what if
access.
3 different vendors come in wanting to rent?
That's a problem. What I'm trying to get at is that these were built for public use and access. Okay? And right now, if you go to Roy Park and you look at the tennis courts there, we know those are the ones that are in tough shape. It really leaves you bothered. And essentially, if you go there and 3 of those courts, 75% of it's taken up, and we have 1 court, you have people who go out on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning. I'm not sure, and I don't know, when we say lessons, I don't know if this gentleman's just doing it 1 night a week, 7 days a week. Is it Saturday mornings, or, is it the busy times when people wanna be there?
The point that I was trying to make was, I don't think that, I'm just concerned that we're having a discussion that we don't have all the information
Correct.
about. So rather than having this discussion, because I would think that the Parks and Rec Director and the commission has a better idea of what times are available for rentals versus the high use by the public. So I don't even think we should have that discussion, because everything is basically theoretical. So until we have, but you understand that there was a concern, you're hearing.
Right, I mean, I just wanna know what do you want as your representative? I mean, what do you want me to go back? All I've heard is that there's an issue with access, and then there's an issue of transparency, and should we just simply, if that's what you want me to bring back, then that's what I'll bring back.
Well, I think what I'm hearing is that there is a concern about access. So as long as I think what I'm hearing, I think what Steve would be, and Steve, I mean, what you wanna make sure is that if there's a rental on the courts, that there is no problem with some access. Now, if they rent the courts out at a time that there's hardly any use and they feel that one is adequate, I'm assuming you're okay with that.
Like, let's say for hypothetically that, I don't know, during the week, during, working type hours, the courts are not used at all, hypothetically, and now they're gonna be generating, that they're gonna be getting a benefit because this person will be giving lessons when it's not really used, and then in return, we'll be providing lessons to residents, but yet we're not gonna suck up the times when people are playing maybe on Saturdays, Sundays, and
I think
after
that's
work
what
or
Steve's
something.
concern is. Steve doesn't wanna see those being the majority
wanna
of
see
the
the
courts
prime-
being
the prime
used
time
at the
slots
prime
used.
time.
Is that fair to say? To narrow it down, it's more the prime
Right.
time?
Well, like I said, I don't know, like I said earlier, I don't know
Okay.
what a lesson is. Is
Yeah.
he doing it 1 day a week, or is it 4 people, starting to do
Right.
lessons around the clock?
And the other concern is transparency. I mean, and I think the point, though, that you made about some people can't write a check, some people can. So I think there has to be,
I think that's what the Parks and Rec Commission, from what I gather, wants that degree of flexibility. If there are some organizations out there that could rehab a pavilion, hypothetically. I mean, if we need to put a price tag on that, but yet, case in point, we have a gentleman who's gonna be building a gazebo. Would we say, nope, we want $5,000, we don't want the gazebo, we'll build it ourselves? No, I mean, so I think, I guess how,
The difference is, this is an individual getting revenue
yeah,
From using the facility.
from using
Right.
the facility.
right.
but I think just, are you happy, or are you satisfied with him conveying your concern to them?
Or do you want a substantive change to what
Well,
because they're
I'd like more
essentially
information,
doing
as the
a,
chairman mentioned.
Exactly,
okay,
exactly, just,
okay.
okay?
So that was one. Selectman Pierce then spoke about, he gave an update on the status of the rail trail completions and the progress of the TE grant. Just want to give you an update. Again, I haven't gone by the pools today, but supposedly the vendor who was going to be repairing both pools was going to be on site, flying in, I guess, Thursday and Friday, and was going to start the process this week. I do not know what impact the weather has been having on that whole process, but I can by our next meeting, obviously, which will be in 2 weeks, we hope that there'll be substantial completion, because they're trying to open this thing, the pool's up, I think, they want to have this thing done by the first week of June, so,
The impact is groundwater
I know.
coming into the pool.
yeah.
Right.
Can't pump it out.
Okay, now, the next one was also, this may have some impact for us. There was a company called Kentucky Canoe Company, and they wanted the opportunity to store and trailer kayaks for the purpose of renting kayaks to the community behind the Parks and Rec building. And they wanted to do this from June to September, and they wanted to do it for a fee of $500. And there was a motion made, and it was approved to allow that contingent upon approval by the Board of Selectmen. So there is, just to give you a little bit of background, there is a space in the back, which is the Parks and Rec building. There was discussion about launching kayaks and canoes from there. The storage, there could be, the Parks and Rec director and the commission, I guess, spoke to the fire chief. There has to be access to that. It's not, limited or anything, so they can turn around, et cetera. That's all understood, and that would be done. They would also need this company would need to have a certificate of insurance, naming the town as an additional insured. I asked a question about more public safety, is this person going to have a small motorboat there, just in case someone goes out and I don't know, they can't, whether it's strong headwinds or something where they can't get back in, how are they going to, in some places that I've been to that have kayak rentals or canoe rentals, they always seem to have like a small little boat that if someone, they can, kind of tow them in if they were in distress. I've seen that, so.
I haven't seen that.
I have never seen that at any place I've
I've
rented
several.
kayaks from.
So,
Actually, this company is also took
they're
over
in
Hannah Paddle.
they're in Concord.
Hannah's
Yeah.
Paddle on the Merrimack.
Yeah, and they're
So they
in
do
Concord,
two
so
rivers
it's not,
now.
this is an established company,
Yeah,
by the
no,
way.
I've rented
Okay.
from them.
Actually, I think one of our wellness
Yeah.
activities was at one of theirs.
Normally you rent and they send you down the river and they
That's
don't
right.
see you
Yeah,
again.
well, actually,
Right,
what's,
we'll be there in 3 hours to pick you
Well,
up.
and
Was
that's
this
another
something-
thing that
well-
they talked about was, there was some discussion about, if this is kind of like a pilot, they wanna see how it goes, so they recognize that $500 is not a ton of money, but this gentleman believes that he's gonna probably lose money the first year, and it might take 2 or 3 years for it to get going, but on the positive side of it, it could make it more, of a destination for people to
Yeah.
come, not just for families here locally, but others in the surrounding communities.
don't
So-
they do this with the Concord at the Everett?
Yes,
They
Yep.
put in and take out there?
yes, they do. That's the same company. So it's not, it's a well-established company, it's not,
Right, no,
Something
I think Sue is correct. We did have a wellness kayak
Up
trip
there one
with
on-
Hannah's Paddle.
Yeah, was it Hannah's or Kentucky?
No, we had it,
We did
it was
both.
with Hannah, right.
so, that would need approval by us. They approved it conditional upon our approval. So if that's something that this board is in favor of, I guess conditional upon the getting a certificate of insurance naming the town.
And
And
the
any
only
other-
thing that I would add to it is just to run it by LGC and
Yeah,
just see if there's
definitely.
anything that they're gonna require.
So they'll just need a motion, or a motion from this board to that effect, if that's the case.
You gonna make the motion? Go.
No, I was just gonna also ask if, Sue, you said that they were doing it with Concord?
Yeah, we should get a copy of their
I was
agreement
gonna
with
say
the
if we
city of
could
Concord.
touch base with City of Concord and find out what paperwork and
Yep.
policies they have in place.
So I mean, if it's all right, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve the recommendation of the Parks and Rec Commission, provided that the vendor provides a certificate of insurance naming the town of Goffstown as an additional insured, and also having the town administrator work with the city of Concord, with
And
regard,
LGC,
and
yeah.
LGC with regard to any outstanding issues that may arise.
What about wellness committee being able to use the kayaks?
Depends how well they feel that day. I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Okay, next was a discussion on the Barnard land. This is, well, it's now our land. And they would like to start the process, and one of the things that they want to do is to reach out to the different stakeholders. We've already had discussions with all of our department heads, and I've conveyed that to them, So that we've spoke to the police, the fire, DPW, and everyone, and really what it boiled down to, and correct me if I'm wrong, was the police firing range is not on that parcel.
No,
And
correct.
that's not an issue. The DPW obviously needs to have a plan so they can excavate materials from that.
And approvals.
And approvals. The issue with the fire department is that the ideal spot for, if there ever was a central station, would probably not be on that parcel.
Well,
We talked about.
That's important, at least that's
Right.
been recognized.
And it would most likely be at the community farmland or elsewhere. But the board, again, I was under my impression that we would set aside some of that property for future municipal use, although kind of like Cemetery Field, where it's gonna be a field, but it could be something down the road. That being said, they want to establish, an ad hoc committee, which.
Who is they?
The Parks and Rec Commission.
Okay.
Where they would have members of these different stakeholder groups. So it would be some of the sports groups, it would be the conservation, someone from conservation, perhaps someone from budget, and work on a plan so that by the end of the year, they would have a plan in place as to what this site will look like, and over a period of time. They also wanted to secure Howard Soboloff as the athletic director. He's on the commission. He's the athletic director for Londonderry. And he had suggested, which I thought was a pretty good idea, there is a couple of people that they do more of like a charrette type thing, and the cost would probably be around $5,000, which the Parks and Rec Commission wants to use their impact fee money for, was its expansion. And then you get all those stakeholders, they would hear all the different input, and then they would work with Parks and Rec Commission to develop the plan for what that facility would look like 5 and 10 years. And this is a long-term, this is not something that's gonna happen in a year or two. But what they need is, they need to determine what will it look like at the end? What's the vision for the end? And then how do you get there in a staggered and incremental process? So as you excavate, say, quadrant A, and it's totally excavated, what's gonna go there before you then start on B, and then how is it gonna be staggered? So this is gonna be a multi-phased development of that property. So they wanted the board's approval to go ahead and start that process of starting to speak to the different stakeholder groups, and then ultimately to have a design-type charrette and go down that road. Recognizing that, talk to Sue, there may be the possibility of us having a grant through Southern New Hampshire or others where they can actually do actual engineering or planning.
Plan New Hampshire.
Plan New Hampshire, I meant.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, Southern
But
New Hampshire is that money.
the charrette would be the precursor to that, but when you get to hot and heavy planning, which this is gonna be a 5 or 10 year process, this is not gonna be,
Okay,
1
and
year.
where is Public Works?
They would
with
be,
this?
they would be one of the stakeholders that's
Oh,
gonna
no,
be.
I understand, but where is Public Works with this as far as knowing what type of material is in what parts of the property? Do
They,
have
that's
an
where,
idea?
they're asking for direction. Says Carl wants to know, okay, what are you gonna do? Right now, he is still taking materials, from what I gather, from the Perry property,
Right,
because it's,
yes.
which is fine, but he's not gonna be able to do that for that much longer, probably another year or so.
No, I understand, but when you're talking about the plan for the property.
Right.
Because we need an approval, and it's divided into quadrants,
Right.
and when you're doing where is Carl as far as having that parcel divided so that he knows what
We're not there
material?
yet.
Oh,
We're not
okay.
there yet.
Okay, so, I mean, I don't wanna get the cart before the horse, I
No,
just
I mean,
wanna
I
make
think
sure.
Carl will be
that-
part of that process.
Okay, that's what's very
Not
important.
initially. I think he will be part of that process 3 or 4 months from now. Because I think they have this, what is this thing gonna look like? So let's just say it's gonna be, this is just what, in my mind, there are some really nice aesthetically pleasing parts by the Black Brook that I think you wanna conserve. For, people just to watch I don't think you're gonna develop a field right next to that. It's a nice area, in my opinion. Then there's actual fields, whether they be soccer, baseball, softball, whatever it may be. There's also some wooded area, which, there's a couple things that could happen there. One, if you remember, we could forest it. We could timber it, or you could thin it out and you can put some walking trails or biking trails there as well. So, once that plan is kind of developed, then Carl would say, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start with, say, this quadrant. I will excavate for the next year or two. You follow? And then
No,
we'll
I
move
understand, it's
on.
just long as Carl identifies what material is in which quadrant.
Right.
And I don't wanna see Carl people expect Carl to be doing this quadrant, and Carl says, the material I need is not in that quadrant, it's in this quadrant
Right.
over here. That's
Okay.
that's why I'm
So
saying
that's where
it's gotta be in there.
that's where we're at. So I think
Okay.
probably a motion to that effect would make sense, to authorize Parks and Rec to, develop I'll make the motion to authorize Parks and Rec to establish an ad hoc committee for the purpose of.
Did we already do that?
We did that already.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
already
did that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so as long as we're all good with
No,
that,
yeah.
they're gonna proceed.
Just make sure Public Works is in it.
Okay, the next thing that we talked about was the revolving fund.
How long was this meeting? I thought you were
It was
only here for
long.
15 minutes.
No, I was at the library
I was
one
gonna
for
say,
15
because,
minutes. This one was
you've
long.
got the longest agenda item here.
Well, they talked about a lot of stuff.
Well,
uh,
let's get a move on.
Talked
It's
about
10 minutes of 8.
The revolving fund, and the warrant article for the revolving fund did not mention anything about capital improvements. However, the explanation was that we were going to charge fees, money would be put into a revolving fund, it would be used for capital purposes to improve the parks. Now there is a thought process that although that's where the majority of the revolving funds should go, there may be circumstances, whether it be an emergency, something breaks down, whether it be a lawnmower or something like that, where they would need to dip into that money to get them by, or for exception basis programming where they might need to use that. But I think the committee recognizes that the vast majority of instances, that money is gonna be set aside to grow year to year to, for more capital-related stuff. But there may be on an as-needed basis, or in some cases, an emergency basis, where something breaks down, where they might have to go and authorize money to spend on a piece of equipment to get them by. So hypothetically, if the snow blower goes and they don't have any money in their budget or something, they could use that money to replace the snow blower or to a tractor or something like that. So I think that was that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nick.
Oh, that's okay, before we leave it, how was it left? 'Cause
It was left that a motion was made by Howard Stovall's primary use of Parks and Rec revolving funds is for capital improvements for our parks and facilities. However, the commission reserves the right to use the fund for program expenditures and program development.
Can we do that legally with the
That's-
way,
Yeah,
the wording?
yes,
The wording reflects the RSA.
the
It
RSA,
was purposely kept as broad as the RSA, even though the thoughts behind the establishment were for the capital improvements, because we recognized that would be difficult to get through CIP. for
Could we
new
just
park.
check to see, because I know at the deliberative session, there were some residents that expressed a concern that we would utilize that money to offset
budgets.
budgets.
Mhm.
And if I remember correctly, we stated
Yep.
that that would not be the case.
And that's exactly my concern, because the only concern I have is that I don't want this to be viewed as a giant slush fund.
Right.
That's gonna be used, that whatever they don't get in the budget is gonna come out of this. And that's just so that we don't cross that.
I'd just like to see how it was represented at town meeting.
That's exactly how it was represented at town meeting. Your recollection is, I think the one was the one who presented it, and that was exactly how it was presented. But as I said, the warrant article itself is exactly what the statute says. And again, this is a different Parks and Rec director than what was here before. And I know in terms of my conversations with him, these revolving funds, a lot of them around the state are for money's in on fees, money's out on programs, it's kind of used like that. So they're not gonna go that route. They're going with primarily what this fund was established for.
You talking about what it's established by statute, or what it was?
No, what the spirit of what the Goffstown voters
Okay.
supported 2-3 years ago.
Across the board, or So I didn't get that from what you, from their
No,
motion.
the vast majority of the time, yeah.
Well, the vast, what does that
Yeah,
mean, the vast
They're reserving
They're
their
reserving their right
right
to
to
consider it.
emergencies,
That-
Yeah.
expenditures.
I guess
So-
that's, and, you know, honestly, I have to say, this is the reason why I was against, not that I'm against the fund, I was concerned for the process that we did not all get together, everybody get on the same page and present something the way the ambulance article was done. Okay, so everybody's on the same page, because what we have here now is we have all these different discussions, different recollections with this, you know.
I don't think this, okay, let me make
I'm
this
just-
crystal clear. There is no difference in recollection, okay? I think it's crystal clear, and the minutes of the deliberative session and all the discussion up to that point was that this would be used for capital expenditures only.
Yeah, and what's the motion? But we reserve the right to use it as a slush fund.
No, that's not, and I.
What they're saying.
I know, but that's not, Phil, that's not a really great.
But that's that's
Okay.
where it's going.
Again, I think that the term slush fund has an extremely negative connotation. I mean, a revolving fund, then, every revolving fund is a slush fund then, because there's money
No.
coming in, there's money coming out.
No, when you reserve the right
Yeah.
to use it for whatever I have a shortfall on anything else to use in here, that's a slush fund.
Okay, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I respect your opinion.
Who has final authority?
They do.
They do. They're the agents of the fund.
Yeah, they are.
So, let me continue?
Go right ahead.
Okay. Then there's, last but not least, the Goffstown Youth Football Association has requested the use of the parking lot at the Surratt Field Complex at Laurier Street for a 48-foot trailer to house all of their equipment. This request is for 12 months out of the year, and the commission approved that. Like, once again, that it's insured and that they provide the town with a certificate of insurance, et cetera, so.
A trailer, could you be a little
A
more?
Page
Page
Street
Street
type storage trailer.
They aren't even allowed in the zone. Zoning doesn't allow residents to have them on their property.
There was one at Barnard for a while for the high
Yes,
school.
for a long time.
They stored their equipment.
So, there wasn't really any objection from the commission.
Is it in sight of any, are there any abutters around there? Is it, in view of?
I don't think so. No.
So if they go get a permit for it, we'll waive the fee?
Is that what you want them to do, get a permit?
Can't get a permit, that's why I said.
Back on Parks and Rec, I'll go back to the library.
Scott,
Yeah.
what was the location again for that?
It was at Laurier Street, Louis Street, the Surratt Fields, there's a parking lot.
It's off of
It's
Laurier.
off of that, yeah, it's off of Laurier.
Just a quick question, was there any discussion on the cemetery fields? Where is that planning process?
No real discussion, none. I mean, I don't, do you recall, you were there for a lot of that meeting? I don't think that came up. I can, what would you like me to bring back to the next meeting?
Well, I just, where we are in the planning process, will there be any opportunity for abutters to weigh in on the?
From what I gather, it's not,
We're supposed to get a presentation, they're supposed to put some kind of a plan together and bring that forward.
That's right,
yeah.
that's what I was wondering,
Yeah.
where we are with that, because
Right.
there are some concerns that have been raised.
okay, so plan for the, what do you call that? Parsons Cemetery. Cemetery Field 2.
Need a better name for that.
Let's go Parsons.
Parsons
Parsons
Playground.
Field.
Parsons Drive, Field.
Okay, I can bring that back to him.
Okay.
I'll talk to Rick this week and let him know to put it on the agenda.
Okay.
So, specifically, you want some sort of plan to come before us for a
No, what we were my understanding was that they were gonna work and put some kind of a plan together for the parking, the size of the fields, things that were questioned.
Well, last that we heard, didn't they, I think Parks and Rec met with Carl, and they talked about having parking right off the Parsons Drive, that I don't recall anything about it. We talked about a berm or something last week. I don't recall anything about that.
Well, I don't mean a formalized architectural plan,
Okay.
but I mean some type of,
They
present the
did- they
board
did-
with
They did talk
a
about
final.
trying to take out, like, there's a little crown that they're gonna try to level that out a little
But
bit.
I think that's what Phil's saying, I don't know where they're going conceptually. There
Right.
was the question, would you leave it the way it is? Would you, would,
I don't get the impression,
would they?
this is not from the last meeting, but from a prior discussions, that they were looking to do anything extreme there. It was just gonna simply be to, very minimalistic.
Yeah, Dave?
And I guess my question is that there are, and it was at cemeteries, meeting as well, the cemetery trustees meeting, there are residents from Parsons Drive, abutters, that have some concerns. And my question is, will there be an opportunity for those individuals to express their concerns before the plans are done? Because there may be some low-cost, low-impact type of changes to the plans, or at least
I don't
accommodations
know.
that
I'll
will minimize
find
the
out.
impact.
No,
I
but
thought the board decided they wanted to have a public hearing on this, but before
Yeah.
they went to a public hearing, they wanted to see a plan
exactly.
worked on between DPW
Right,
and,
I understand that,
Parks
but I
and Rec.
guess, again, if we go back to that not wasting, but duplicating efforts. If you have the input first, before you go and put your plan, because sometimes the plan is done, we've worked on it, and now we try to defend it, and there's a reluctance to change the plan. Whereas if input is received prior to spending the time and putting a plan together, you can incorporate some of the input into the plan.
Yeah, but I think you need a
That's my-
plan, the plan that we were supposed to get a plan back so that we had some basis to start, because there's a question about parking, parking this way, parking that way, but come back, I have no idea, we don't know how many parking spaces Rick needs, we don't know the size of the field, so Rick needs to have an idea where the field's gonna be, where the parking, at this point, we don't even know that. And I understand exactly what you're saying, but in order to get there, we need some type of a plan.
Okay.
As long as that's the understood, that the plan is just a conceptual, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
we'll take some
I'd
input.
like to conclude the longest ever Parks and Rec
Commission meeting.
That's okay, you got 1.5 minutes
No, I'm
left.
done.
You done?
Yeah.
Wow, you broke the record.
You know what, I think the issue was that they waited for me, because they knew that Steve would have difficulty trying to explain, like, these 4 pretty big projects, so.
I sat here quietly.
Yeah, see that?
Quietly.
You see?
and he got you.
You see that? Look at
But
that,
I'm-
boy.
I will not carry any water for him the rest
I
of the year.
don't,
I heard the meeting was actually only 15 minutes
It was 15
long.
minutes long.
Yeah.
Steve went on
The
a
report
lovely,
was 3 times as long as the.
he went on a
Exactly.
lovely anniversary date with his wife, and it was all worth it,
Yes,
so.
it was.
yeah, this is what you get for letting him go, right?
If
You
I-
have to put up with
Steve,
this.
if I would've known, I would've said, I'll stick with the library or something, but.
You know what? If Steve would've known, he probably would've. Anyway, any other business? Before we go into we have some non-public. Conclude.
CIP met, just.
That's right, CIP. Go right ahead.
CIP met, we had a presentation from Goffstown Water Precinct. Grassmere Water Precinct was not present. Brian Rose will be getting in touch with them to get some information. We had a presentation from the fire department. Earl Carroll was elected as vice chair, and we will be meeting again on June 2nd.
Any questions of Nick? Okay, any other public business before we go into non-public? We'll be going to non-public and probably just come out to make a motion or two and then adjourn.
Just one comment regarding Parks and Rec, though, that the piece with, if you start looking at, and I know Mr. Pierce worked a lot with the scouts, between the stairs, that field in the back, bringing in the kayaks, tying in with rails to trails, it's really becoming it's coming much more than just the tin hut that was sitting there. I mean, it's really coming
Well,
along good.
And the other thing I have to say, I think in defense of the Parks and Rec Commission, between that, having a new director and all those, changes that come associated with it, there's just, the introduction of fees. Rick gave us an overview of how that is. I mean, there's a lot on their plate. I mean, there's a lot. And then the Barnard property and others, I mean, there's quite a bit going on.
I have one question regarding that you brought this up. I mean, if we're gonna have the walk, we're gonna have picnic tables, and we're gonna have kayaks. Parks and Rec is not open all the time. What do we do about
Porta potty or something?
what do we do with that and trash so we don't wind up with the same type
That's a
of
good
an
point.
issue. So that's something that,
Budget for next year,
no, take it out of the fund.
there you go.
No, no, no.
Well,
Emergency.
see that?
Some consider going to the bathroom an emergency, Sue.
I knew he was gonna say that.
And we're gonna need some barbecue grills over there, so Nick, you might wanna check and see if there's any permits that are gonna be required for that. Did you check with DigSafe?
Don't start, come on. You didn't give me an opportunity to talk about the 250th.
Oh.
I'll wait till 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're gonna have another meeting, make a big one now.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 4 minutes till 5 after
The
8.
most important thing for us is only one thing, and that is we have to set a time to go down to Nashua, or unless you want to give me your dimensions of your body, so I can arrange for these costumes. And then I'm hoping that one of us, not me, would actually go and pick them up, because I'm
Why
gonna be
don't I
like.
pick him up since I live in Nashua?
You do?
Yes.
Okay, so we do have to make an arrangement to go down there, and I was thinking maybe sometime next week. Or, I don't know, what everybody's schedule is, but we have to go to the costume place to get fitted.
Well, let me know where the place is,
In
because
Nashua.
I do have
Nashua's a big place.
a job in Nashua.
Somewhere in Nashua. Now, is this something where you wanna go together, or do you just wanna try to say,
If
listen,
we go
everybody's-
together, it's gotta be posted.
Is this for June
It's
17th?
for June 17th, yeah, we're dressing up, so.
We need to do this next
And
week.
I also thought that, since we do not have a female on the board, that it probably would make sense for the town administrator,
Be dressed
to
in a
dress
period
up.
Well, I thought you were gonna say for Steve to dress up as a woman.
You know,
What is
I'm not touching that one.
That's what I figured it was coming from.
I'm gonna sit quietly, but do be prepared in the future.
either that or perhaps the executive secretary. So anyway, do you wanna make plans to go down there all together, or do you think it's something we just, we can talk about that privately, I guess, but that's something that we really just wanna get that kinda checked off and done.
Running out of time.
I do have something before we go. There was public comment, and Sue Tucker brought up the dead cat. I'd like to think we at least talk about roadkill.
I think the chief was talking
Yeah,
to
he
her
was
in the
talking.
hallway.
Okay, are we resolved with this?
It should be taken
Yeah.
care
No,
of.
but I mean,
They
let
do-
me
they
ask
do
the question
take-
regarding someone calling us. I mean, should they have to wait for public comment to come in and talk, or, I mean, should this be
No,
resolved?
It's,
Was it a misunderstanding?
I think it's done during regular hours, right?
yeah, it's,
Monday through Friday. Oh, it was a budget cut, doing it on weekends and nights, unless
Right.
it was a large animal blocking the roadway.
right.
Because didn't DPW used to just go,
No,
Nope,
no, no.
it was a private individual.
No.
Who did it.
well, let me phrase it.
It was on call and.
Yeah, well, okay, let me phrase it. The private engineer had worked for DPW,
Correct.
correct?
Yes.
Right, so he did, but I mean, so he would go and pick it up. All right.
Yes.
And by the way, I know that our former finance director had an issue with that arrangement, but it seemed like it was a pretty good deal for the community to have this person pick up the roadkill.
And they got paid by, and if they went over and they got money from
I
a
don't know. Is
restaurant,
there-
that guy came off the bill.
Is there any flexibility in trying to
think
work
that's
that
a
thing out?
And it was a
It
dinner
is?
time
All
plus,
That's
right?
no problem.
Huh?
And it was a dinner time plus, right?
Hey,
All right.
that's why they had the
No, but I mean-
Roadhouse Cafe.
No, but we
Roadkill
joke about it, but
Cafe.
it shouldn't have
For
to sit there
wandering.
for a weekend like that. That's
Okay, look, it's 5 minutes after. We're going into non-public.
Motion to go into non-public, what, under A? Is it A? Not A.
Oh, that's my bad arm.
Detrimental,
What's that?
what's the letter
Go
for
on.
I don't even know.
What,
What's the adversely affect at C?
See,
see,
Under C.
Okay, is there a second?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Roll call?
Yes.
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 We are in non-public.
let me try it underhand.